moment to get the word out. Welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I'm your host, Kalari GXC, and it is good to see y'all. I have had a really good week in spite of people trying to cause mess, but we ain't here for all of that except for just a little bit of spoutable stuff. Yes, I know there was a big thing with the data breach. As a gamer, as somebody who's been online for over 2 decades now, I'm not shocked when companies get targeted. I'm not shocked when data gets compromised. I am impressed by the way Mr. Boozy and his team handled it. And I know that there are people out there, and let me get the title uh, right because it's not right. It's still the one from last week. And though I like it, and though it's still going to be about Black history, we want to do things right up in here. So give me a moment to change that over while I tell you that I am thoroughly impressed by the Spoutable team. Christopher Boozy got on this early in the morning and pretty much covered what happened, what they were doing, and what we could do to protect our information. Now, somebody who lived through the Sony hacks, when DC Universe Online, a game that I played for a little bit, uh, compromised both our username, passwords, and financial information. And every company that I've used online has had some kind of hack. I don't appreciate it when shit stirs, including some article writers with their failed articles. A few of these people who barely interacted on Spoutable talking about, you should leave. And this heifer, who I'm not even going to give her name, though a lot of people quote tweeted her, including myself, responding to her because she alluded that this was akin to a mugging. As somebody who used to live in New York City, I take great offense to that because I know what it feels like. And having your data compromised is nothing like being mugged, honey. They got your passwords at that. But I made a little bit of a meme of her because she wanted to get people over to her new social medias. So I named her Try It and It Failed because she was like, okay, friendos, the data breach is too much for me. I'm going to bail by the end of the day. She spent the whole day arguing with people. So apparently bailing wasn't that important to her. You can find me on here, Blue Sky. I put at nope. Instant Threads at nada. And Mastodon at don't care by heifer. Be good humans. No, I'll be chaotic neutral heifer. And you know why? Because there was absolutely no reason for your little tantrum. Spoutable, just like everything else is in the airport, you did not have to announce your departure. You weren't even there that long. And I know some people who want to counter with me, well, didn't you do a goodbye from Cowboy Bebop as your technical last tweet on Twitter? Yeah, I did. But I was on Twitter for a fucking over 10 years. I had over 30K people that were looking at the shit I posted each day. So I thought it would be nice to let them know I'm moving on. This heifer barely interacted on Spoutable, but wanted to treat it like the data breaches were the end of the world. And it was really telling because she was also one of them heifers last year that tried to say that Christopher Boozy was anti trans because he would not allow not safe for work art to be shared. Along with them book heifers that were like, you're hurting our books. You're hurting our business. And it was like, no, he is trying to keep the site from devolving the way Twitter does with porn and other issues. You don't need not safe for work art to promote your work. But there are too many people thinking that we were all just going to be a Duchess Meghan stand site when a lot of us did defend Meghan Markle from the racism and brutality on Twitter. But we talk about a lot of other things. The royal family barely comes up that I've seen because a lot of us are in the United States, Canada, and in countries that really aren't affected by England or were affected by England's colonization and don't want to waste their time talking about that country. But they cannot help themselves. They are salty and still trying to attack Spoutable, and they will hold us guilty for things that other tech companies get away with and don't even tell you until years later. So I will give you a hearty bye, heifer. I won't remember you and I won't care about you. It ain't about your identity, which I noticed you tried to use and weaponize. Plenty of us marginalized understand that you don't like something, you move on. But what we aren't going to do is act like this data breach is the end of the world because it's not. I also am going to try tomorrow depending on what we got to do, to start my YouTube lives. I'm going to keep them separate from the Bonnet Chronicles, with the exception of when I get merch. And oh my gosh, my stickers came. A lot of these are some of my sayings, the ones without the curses, y'all. I have to keep it clean. I don't want the Streamlab merch shop saying we can't print these. So no foot soldiers for fuckery yet, unless I get my own sticker making machine. But I will say that I am impressed with how these came out just from the looks in the plastic. Give me a moment, y'all. I am so excited because I will be giving these away when we start the giveaways. We have the hollow foils with the new calling out the heifer statements. I don't know if the camera will focus enough, so I will take pictures. One of them is okay, dum dum, whatever. You are full of carbs and lies. My punk power is a defiant decency, and budget is my love language. I love these hollow foil stickers. They're good for sticking on notebooks, your mugs, and everything else. Then I've got the Mega Deluxe sticker sheet with some of the calling out the heifer, some of my sayings, some of the artwork that I've designed over time, my Kalari stuff. Just little things, little nuggets of wisdom that you can keep and put in your scrapbooks, or just keep the sticker sheet all whole and keep it as a collectible. I am really excited about the shop because I was worried. You know, you're putting your work in other people's hands and hoping they do a good job. And so far, even though I was initially disappointed with the size of the budget is my love language stickers for the hollow foil, it does make sense. And I love that I could stick it on my water bottle. I'm going to put that over here for now. Then we've got another in the Calling Out the Heifer series. Actually, I thought he said he cut this. Give me a moment, y'all. I still gotta get through this because his knife apparently didn't go all the way through this. We're gonna do a little bit of whip action. There we go. You know I'm a fan of the darker mugs, but I wasn't that big of a fan of the budget as my love language one, so that has to go into the redesign phase. I do like my Punk Powers are Defiant Decency mugs. I got that on my bookshelf right now. But this, even though it is tiny, I do like it. It is, you are full of carbs and lies, with my artistic rendering of a little heifer that I've been calling out for years. And it has you are full of carbs and lies on both sides, but the artwork's only on one side. I love the way these came out. I'm excited. I will be sipping tea from it, especially when I do the Calling Out to the Heifer series, because I know she's going to be watching. And finally, in double honor, even though some heifer dog was talking about her instead, which, you know, the Carly Simon song, You're So Vain, is starting to play in my mind when I get people that think I'm calling them dum-dums. If I'm calling you a dum-dum and not saying your name, that's weird for me. I only call one person on YouTube dum-dum so far, and that's the heifer. But if you want me to call you dum-dum, I can. This is another thing that, especially traveling, I will be using. It is so pretty. And it is my okay dum-dum whatever mug. All of these are in the Streamlabs store. No obligation to anybody to have to buy them. But I am excited about this. This is sturdy. I really think I'm going to be able to drink a lot of fun things in it. And I just, like I said, I don't believe in putting out crap, y'all. And I wish I had the time to get a 3D printer and stuff and do things myself. But the bitch is busy. I got planter season coming up. I got another novel to write. I've got a webcomic that's launching. I've got collabs coming up with friends. There is way too much on the creative plate for me to worry about what people think about my merch. And like I said, this ain't a knock to those of you who do the work, because I know it's hard work. I know it takes a lot to print and put out stuff and hope people will like it enough to buy it. I'm just taking a random chance that people like my dumb sayings enough. But tonight, we are going to change up the script just a little bit. Let me bop some of this stuff out of here and get my browser up because it is Black History Month 2024. And last week I was a bit more serious, a little bit more melancholy with the topics, but I also like being informative. So we are going to react to Black Culture Unleashed, who I've been following for over a year now. They don't pull punches with Black history. So it is not for everybody. I would not recommend this channel unless you're willing to face some of the brutality that our ancestors went through. But I do enjoy the content they put out, and they did stream a couple of days ago showing 100 Black inventors that you might not have known of. So we are going to watch and react to that as much as we can in this hour. And I just want you to see the accomplishments and achievements and things you probably use in this day and age that you don't realize were invented by Black people. And not just, probably not just Black people here, but I know a lot of them are going to be from here. So we're going to get this fired up and really show the accomplishments.
Can you imagine a life without blood banks, traffic lights, security systems, cloth dryers, and automatic elevator doors? These remarkable creations, and a lot more, wouldn't exist today if it weren't for the brilliant minds of Black people. Black inventors and scientists have long created pioneering works, but...
Now I will say that voice kind of sounds familiar, but I don't think it's who I think it is. At least I hope not. Because, like I said, I have a problem with a certain person that I've talked about years ago, and if he's doing this, I do feel a certain way because of the past history that he had being harmful, but I don't know. So I am going to reserve my judgment until I find out. But Black Culture Unleashed has shown so much amazing stuff. I would hate it to be marred by somebody who admittedly committed domestic assault on their partner, and I don't know, but I tend to listen to people's voices, and I started to get really tense hearing that. So I don't know, y'all, but we're gonna get back to this. And see, this shit, like, I went when I lived with my grandmother in Bennettville. There was this rundown looking store in South Carolina, and he had a no colors allowed, and I was like, who would want to go into that shop anyway? It looks like it's straight out of Deliverance. And my grandmother laughed and she was like, just leave it alone. He was near the doctor's office of all things too. But I'm telling you, racism doesn't die because it is a low-hanging fruit. And it's sad.
Because they lived in a highly segregated nation and were victims of racism, their work rarely got them the compensation and recognition it deserved.
Exactly.
Their inventions were often whitewashed. For this Black History Month special, we are going to take a look at 100 things that were invented by Black people, the kind of inventions that we should have learned in school. One such invention was blood banks. Charles R. Drew was an African-American scientist and surgeon born in Washington, D.C. He was also a pioneer in the field of blood storage and blood transfusion. Because he lived in a period of intense racial discrimination, he actively opposed the segregation of blood donors. He advocated for fair treatment of Black doctors and was recognized as the father of the blood bank.
Now, I'm going to pause this show just a minute because we did learn a bit about Dr. Drew when I was a kid, thank goodness. But I went to school in NYC, and I bet a lot of people did not realize that he developed the system of the blood bank. And I, as somebody who deals with anemia from time to time, thank him, because without his work, people like me would have died from not being able to get a blood transfusion. Welcome to the chat, Loto. And I think the problem I have with the way history skews things, especially now, is a lot of people don't learn stuff like this. And they have to go to the internet. And then they get told, oh, you're being woke for learning stuff like this. There's absolutely nothing wrong with learning history. It's all of our history, and we should all be connected.
He discovered and developed countless blood banking techniques.
He was one of the pioneers that discovered that basically you can remove the plasma, liquid portion of blood, and actually lyophilize, freeze dry plasma, and store those proteins for prolonged periods of time. And really it was breakthrough technology in terms of being able to provide some kind of a transfusion support with protein.
Hopefully you can hear me, I did adjust the microphone levels, and I know that the video is a little bit louder, and I'm gonna try not to talk or interrupt over it. But if you want to comment on this, feel free. I really do appreciate everybody who participates.
During war efforts.
His impact can still be felt today, with approximately 20% of donated red blood cells being used to treat patients with blood cancer. Another invention is the traffic lights. When automobiles first hit the market, navigating the streets in America became a chaotic nightmare. Horses, pedestrians, bicycles, and streetcars all tried to compete with motor vehicles for the right to take the streets.
Wow.
The first traffic lights that were used in the US appeared in the 1910s. They were mounted on intersections and only had two lights, red and green. But drivers didn't have enough time to react, and this caused a lot of traffic accidents. Garrett Morgan was the son of an enslaved parent from Ohio. Even though he only finished elementary school, he came up with a remarkable solution that would completely revamp the way people use traffic lights.
It was a madhouse out there. Drivers jockeying for position, changing lanes, or turning without even glancing to see.
And I can tell you that, especially in New York City, because I think they were showing LA with the streetcars, it's always messy traffic-wise. And I feel like a lot of people, they only hear that a black man invented the newer form of the traffic light that we still use today with the red, yellow, and green that gives people time to pause, time to slow down, and time to stop and go. But it should be common knowledge. It is not to take from, welcome to the chat, Beans. I just feel like people don't realize the contributions that we gave to make the society better. And I want more people to understand it is not to shit on white inventors. There are plenty of inventors. There are plenty of creative inventors from all cultures. But for so long, we couldn't get patents for the stuff we invented. We couldn't even get recognition without it being in February. And I just want people to understand that we all need to just hold each other up when we do well. And wow, French surgeon just took some guy from the hospital office and trained him to do out of brain surgery for cancer. I'm not shocked. I know that studying the medical field is a lot of work. I've only done stuff for coding and billing, and there is so much that you have to learn just in that. I cannot imagine what doctors go through, but you'd be surprised how many savants out there, especially neurotypical savants, can actually learn hands-on stuff like surgeries and stuff. The mind is an amazing thing, and I love writing about it. That's what my sci-fi is about. The things that people can do without training would just shock you. And I'm glad to hear that, Loto.
If somebody else was barreling through the intersection. Enter Clevelander Garrett Morgan, credited with inventing this first-of-a-kind traffic light. Before the light went up near East 105th and Euclid Avenue, a light bulb went off in Garrett Morgan's...
In 1923, Morgan patented the first three-way traffic signal, the traffic light we use today. Morgan introduced the yellow light to help inform drivers of when they had to prepare for traffic to stop. His invention helped transform modern America and create a safer space for both drivers and pedestrians.
Loto.
But when it came to safety, nothing could outmatch the home security system. Marie Van Britten Brown.
Now, even before they start this, I found out about this last year. I was shocked because I always thought that the home security system was invented by other people. But it makes sense that somebody developing a security cam would probably be in a situation where they have to watch their house, where they have to, because I grew up in 1970s and 1980s New York. And trust me when I say we had to deal with break-ins. We had to deal with people trying to rob our family store. We had to deal with a lot of fuck shit in old New York. And people don't realize that that can cause so much anxiety. So I was really floored by the fact that this invention was created by a black woman. But I shouldn't have been shocked because we constantly have to look out for ourselves and our own.
24 million households have home security cameras. But did you know the first one was created by a nurse from Queens?
I'm not shocked, New York.
Of Marie Van Britten Brown.
A black woman born in Jamaica, Queens, New York. invented the very first home security system with her husband.
I'm
She
not
received a
shocked.
patent for it in 1969. Her concept was very different from the one we use today. It was more complex and very expensive to make. As a result, it wasn't.
And that is because we didn't really have the tech system back then. And I wasn't even alive back then, but the computers were fucking huge in the 60s and the 70s from pictures. I was only a kid in the 70s. So yeah, it was a bit more costly and clunky back then, but you can't tell me it wasn't innovative to have such a security system.
Manufactured on a large scale. However, it provided the necessary guidelines to create modern CCTV security systems. The next invention on this list is the cloth dryer. George T. Sampson was a black man who invented the early version of the automatic clothes dryer back in 1892.
I love
This
my
device
dryer.
came with a frame that would allow the user to suspend garments above a stove so that they could dry faster. Before Sampson's innovation, clothes dryers in England and France took the form of ventilators. They were basically barrels with holes. Sampson's invention also functioned as a ventilator, but eliminated the necessity for an open flame. It was a lot more practical and efficient. Another interesting invention was the automatic elevator doors. In the mid-1800s, people didn't like to ride elevators because they were unsafe.
Look at that. It's just a open lift. If it went up too high or jolted, you would fall. Like, I know it was early days, and I know that for people it was convenient, especially deliveries. Like you see that sketch of a guy delivering barrels and boxes, but I would have been paranoid. Now, growing up in New York City, especially, taking the elevator was not scary for me because it was part of daily life. If you were visiting friends or going to hotels or being in buildings and stuff. But I would never want to be in an open elevator. That shit looks scary.
They were an industrial invention. They were used for moving factory goods. With the invention of the safety brake and other safety precautions, elevators became more personal and safer to use. Passengers communicated directly with an elevator operator who guided the traffic. This person opened and closed doors, told the people where to stand, and so on.
It just seemed unbelievably fantastic. Tourists to America in the 1850s and 60s went out of their minds when they encountered an elevator. There's a story of the Duke of Devonshire who went to New York and he tried an elevator and then he wrote home to his family to say, "I just rode on a vertical railroad."
I'm not shocked that somebody from Britain would say that. Not to knock your country, I love y'all all in the UK. But honestly speaking, it cracks me up the way they would come over and see some of the things that we had going on in America. It's like, we just came to the future. That's my weak attempt at an accent. Sorry, y'all.
This
First,
is how AG1 works
ad,
to
come
upgrade your
on.
health routine.
I'm still keeping
But
my
some
premium
buildings
to
didn't have
music.
an operator, and there were many people who accidentally fell to their deaths because they had to manually operate the doors. Alexander
gosh.
Miles decided to improve the elevator experience even further. This black inventor came up with doors that would automatically open and close. He introduced a series of rollers and levers that would automate the entire process.
That's amazing.
Another invention that became widely available was the folding cabinet bed. In 18...
Now, I'm gonna interrupt that for just a moment because I always feared those beds. I know that they were a good invention back then, but there were so many horror stories of people getting folded up, especially in old hotels that used them. I would never ever want to use a folding bed like that. I don't understand the mechanics of it. And I know that some now have the safety latch just in case. But I remember the story of the woman where it fell down, where she couldn't get it open. And for me, that's the stuff of nightmares, y'all. I'm sorry.
1985, Sarah Good made history as the first black woman to obtain a U.S. patent. After moving to Chicago, she opened up a furniture shop. It was in this store
nice.
that she invented a groundbreaking idea,
chairs are
the folding
pretty.
cabinet bed. Since most people lived in smaller homes, they didn't have enough space to fit their furniture. So, she came up with a concept that would accommodate small spaces and still be useful for daily use. Another invention is the gas mask. Garrett Morgan, the same man who invented the three-light
Garrett
traffic
Morgan
lights,
was
came up with
amazing.
another idea that solved a serious problem that plagued scientists for years: smoke inhalation. But this
Not just smoke inhalation, not to interrupt again, but after World War One, especially, chemical warfare really began to wrap up things like mustard gas and Agent Orange and other awful things. and the effects on soldiers' lungs, hearts, and other internal organs, that was a serious thing to take on. So the gas mask was a game changer for our troops. And I am so glad to know that Mr. Morgan was responsible for the designs and patent for this. This is amazing.
Invention was born out of a tragedy. On March 25th, 1911, there was a fire at the Triangle Shirtwaist Company in New York.
The Triangle factory
I
fire
remember
was
studying this
devastating
fire
around the country because it highlighted the need for reform.
Not just reform, they locked them women in so that they couldn't sneak off and take breaks. And so many of them died. They were almost all women that died in that Triangle Shirtwaist fire. And it's just sad because a lot of them didn't actually die for just the fire. Smoke inhalation took their lives. And it was a game changer for people locking factory employees in, for not having proper safety measures for fires. But it took the loss of so many lives for it to be taken seriously. And as somebody who loves history, I just can't imagine the gravity of losing a loved one because their bosses thought we need to lock them in. And that's still going on around this world. There are still plenty of countries that condone factory workers to work in horrible conditions. And we need to get on making sure that stops.
In safety practices.
146 workers died, most of them from carbon monoxide poisoning. Morgan, who used to work in the garment sector, wanted to create a portable product that helped reduce the risk of inhaling smoke.
Morgan's inventor brain began to think. He imagined a situation where firefighters could enter a raging blaze, wearing a breathing device that gave them time to rescue
FDNY
victims.
still uses them.
He invented the very first safety hood and smoke protector. Next on our list is the improved ironing board. The Chinese started ironing clothes 2,000 years ago. The original iron was made of copper, stone, and iron pieces, baked on fire, and then applied to fabrics. But people needed more practical and improved versions. They wanted a durable and light ironing board that could be used for ironing custom-fitted dresses made with tiny waistlines and corsets. Every woman in the 19th
I used my ironing board for years until kiddo got older and wasn't using the formal uniforms for his old school. And I don't like wrinkles that much, but our dryer tends to handle a lot of that now. I just feel like having a portable dryer was just like a staple in a lot of our homes for not even centuries, for decades, because it was just easy to just pop it up, iron your clothes, put it back to the side, and keep it pushing.
century had trouble ironing these garments. They were tight at the wrists and puffy on the shoulders. Sarah Boone was a black woman who received a patent in 1892 for creating an ironing board that could handle these challenges. Another invention is the refrigerated trucks. Before there was refrigerated transport, people used snow and blocks of ice to keep their products cool. In the 1800s, ice harvesting was a common practice. Ice blocks and salt were used for food storage, preservation, and food transportation, but it wasn't a reliable or safe option for long-distance travel. Frederick Jones revolutionized the industry. He invented the very first system for mobile refrigeration. Jones and Joseph Numero, a local merchant, founded Thermo King Corporation.
When his boss asked him to figure out a way to keep food from spoiling during overland transportation, Fred Jones went to work. What he came up with was the world's first system for refrigerated transportation.
It's time for us to unlearn all the BS they taught us and learn who we truly are. That's exactly why we made our new Hidden History Workbook.
And I'll let them advertise that in just a moment. I just want to go back a little bit and commentate on the fact that that woman was able to get a patent in the 1800s. Those of you who don't understand our history, we were barely in the emancipation times after that in 1829. So for her, as a newly, probably generationally emancipated woman, to get the patent for the ironing board, it just speaks volumes of how when we get the ability to shine, we shine. And I love the fact that they wrote their own history book. So I'm gonna let this promotion play just a little bit.
A free workbook designed for those that want to wake up and go deeper than the whitewashed version of our history. This will only be available for a limited time. Click the link in our description to grab yours now for
See,
free.
I don't do limited time releases. If you publish that yourself, then it shouldn't be limited. Just put it up on Amazon, do a draft to digital. My book is still available. It's not about our culture per se, but it is available as long as people want to buy it, because I wanted to own the IP. And then it's harder to do that with history, I understand. But if you're going to put something like this out that people would like to read, don't limit it.
A company that produced mobile refrigeration devices. It soon became an international corporation. Jones was the first black person in America to receive the National Medal of Technology. Next is the tissue holder. Toilet paper was often stored on hooks or shelves and could easily get wet or dirty. Mary Beatrice Davidson Kenner was a black woman who wanted to make convenient inventions that would help with everyday life. She invented the toilet paper holder, a device that could securely hold the roll in place and prevent the tissues from becoming contaminated. But Mary came up with other inventions, like the sanitary belt. The company that wanted to buy the belt rejected the invention the second they learned that a black woman made it. Although she invented the belt in the 1920s, she couldn't get a patent until 30 years later. Back then, women could use tampons, but these products were deemed indecent, so women used rags and cloth instead. The sanitary belt gave women their freedom back up until the 1970s when maxi pads were invented. Another one of her inventions was the backwasher. It was a product you could mount on a bathtub wall or a shower and use it to wash your back clean. She received a patent for it in 1987. The backwasher Mary invented could be used for both cleansing and massaging the back. Before the backwasher, people used sponges and small pieces of fabric to scrub their bodies. Brushes with long handles were a popular choice for removing dead skin cells on the back, but it took time and effort to reach every area of the back. Next on our list is the gear shifting device. Richard Bowie Spikes was a brilliant black inventor with 8 patents to his name, awarded in the 1900s.
Richard Bowie Spikes created a gear shifting device aimed to keep the gears for various speeds in constant mesh, enhancing the invention of the automatic transmission.
In Albion, no matter where you go or
on with these ads, but the automatic transmission was a game changer, not just for cars, but for people, because when you realize that the applied physics and mechanics could be moved from automobiles to tractors to planes and everything else, it really did shape the Industrial Revolution. And I am so glad to see that one of the faces in the forefront of this was somebody from our culture.
what you do, your mount will accompany you on your journey. Perhaps
he worked as a barber, saloon keeper, and mechanic. He was best known for his achievements in automotive technology. Spikes developed a gear-shifting mechanism intended to maintain consistent engagement between gears for different speeds. He wanted to enhance the functionality and efficiency of the automatic transmission by creating a system that allowed gears to work in sync. His innovation improved automatic transmission in the early 1900s. The man was busy. He also invented the beer tapper. Back when bars and taverns didn't have beer taps, alcohol was dispensed from a keg. But because it was hard to limit the constant exposure to oxygen when in use, the beer often went flat and lost its taste.
Draft beer can sometimes be fresher, certainly, often because of the way it's
I don't really like beer.
It's not exposed to light.
I'm not attacking those of you who like beer. It's just not my wheelhouse. I grew up around alcohol, so it is what it is. I just don't particularly see the point of beer or wine, honestly. It all just tastes fermented and not in the good way, like the pickling fermented. So never got with it, but I do love that. Used to have a friend that owned a bar on Staten Island. Had my 16th birthday there because that's how responsible my family was at times. Not all of them, just the immediate. You know who you are. But seeing somebody use one of those automatic pressure things, that was awesome. I had never seen anything like that, but I still, to this day, don't like beer.
In this country, those are things that help maintain the freshness of the beer.
So, Spikes came up with a solution that would change the beer dispensing industry forever. He devised a pressure dispensing beer tap. The beer tapper made the process of serving beer more efficient, helped preserve its freshness, and allowed for more consistent pours. This technology is still used today. Another one of his inventions is the self-locking rack for billiard cues. If you've ever played pool, you've definitely seen the rack.
Oh my god, fun story before he gets into it. We were down in Florida back in my college days. I did not finish school down there. I had to finish it later before people go, well, I thought you finished school after you had the baby. I did. But I initially went to Florida for school. Things didn't pan out. Not going to get into that detail. But I hung out with my friends, Nikki and Valerie, all the time. And we would go to clubs, but I really wasn't a club person. So Valerie got the idea to go to this little like honky tonk bar. And I will never forget because we looked out of place there, but we wanted to have fun. And we seen there was a pool table, so we started to rack up. And these big dudes came over and was like, I bet you girls can't play pool. And I was like, I didn't want to say anything because I was a quiet one. Nikki and Valerie just looked at each other and was like, okay, what do you want to bet? I went out to Nikki's Acura at the time because I wasn't sure if we were going to play pool, but I had had my own pool cue for years. My dad had gave it to me. He had taught me how to play pool when I was a kid. We also used to play pool when I was a camp counselor at the YMCA in New York. So I know how to play pool, guys. I loved it. It was a billiards were my jam. When I came back in with that special cue, those guys regretted putting that money down on the table. We beat the brakes off of them. It was so much fun. I had that much fun to beat my sister's ex in poker, too, because I have flat face effect because of my schizoaffective disorder. So when I play cards, you never know what 10 is thinking. Don't gamble with a schizophrenic, y'all. Or do. You'll lose your money. Hey, Grand Amir, thanks for the lurk. Give your little one and Maddie a hug for me. I'm telling you.
1900s, cue sticks were often disorganized, misplaced, and damaged. People would leave them leaning against the wall or wherever it was convenient. Spikes invented a rack that featured a mechanism that securely held the cues in place. It prevented the cue sticks from falling or being easily knocked over. The invention had easy access for players and protected property from damage. It was a win-win for everyone. There are other inventions that were useful for daily life, like the dustpan. In 1858, T.E. McNeil, an American inventor, designed the very first dustpan. However, a black American by the name of Lloyd P. Ray was the first one to improve the basic version and add a metal collection plate accompanied by a short wooden handle. This invention received a patent in 1897. The goal was simple: increase the product's durability and functionality. Ray added the metal plate to make the dustpan more resilient to wear and tear. It could hold the debris without bending or breaking easily. Plus, the handle offered better grip and maneuverability. But there was one invention that became one of the most critical additions in medicine. That was the laser phaco. Dr. Patricia Bath created laser phaco, a new method and device for eliminating cataracts. This innovation is capable of performing all steps of cataract surgery, such as breaking down the lens, making the incision, and removing the shattered pieces.
I was not seeking to be the first. I was only attempting to do my thing. It's only when history looks back that you realize you were the first.
Bath is the very first black female doctor to obtain a medical patent. She's now in the National Inventors Hall of Fame. Coming up next,
before you even get started in that, I think a lot of people need to understand that nobody sets out to be the first in Black history, but we have this responsibility that sometimes falls upon our shoulders to set a precedent. And I love that we can look at this and see this and know that a lot of stuff that helps our eyesight and stuff was helped by people that just wanted to do the thing. They weren't looking for fame. They weren't looking to be the first. They just wanted to help our society. That is so important to keep reminding people. And I think we're about to do the light bulb. I love this because I know a lot of people are like, well, didn't Edison invent it? He invented the structure, apparently, but the filament came from this man that's coming up.
We have the carbon filament for light bulb. Louis Latimer was born to formerly enslaved parents back in 1848. As a young man, he was a skilled draftsman who showed remarkable intelligence. He later invented a carbon filament that lasted longer and was more durable than earlier filaments. Because of this invention, incandescent light bulbs became cheaper and easier to buy. They were also safer than gas lamps, making them a go-to choice for the average American. Latimer started working for Thomas Edison and became an expert witness and patent investigator for the Edison Electric Light Company. Here's another invention that was very useful back in the 19th century, and that is the tobacco press. John Parker was a black businessman and inventor who held a significant role as an Underground Railroad conductor before the Civil War. Between 1845 and 1865, he saved almost 1,000 slaves. He was born a slave in 1827 in Norfolk, Virginia, but he moved a lot and learned to read and write. By the 1880s, Parker became an inventor. In 1884, he received a patent for his improved version of the tobacco press. The year after that, he got a patent for the portable tobacco press. By optimizing the design, his products...
Not only that, not to interrupt, because I'm not a fan of tobacco. I don't really enjoy the smell or any of that because of my past history with people who did smoke. I mean, I even got kiddie pictures with aunties and uncles holding us with cigarettes in their hand. If you are Gen X, you grew up around smokers. The thing is, he did this to not only help ease the need for sharecroppers to bear the load, but to ensure that we wouldn't have to go backwards to what his parents had to go through as enslaved people. And it just touched my heart knowing that that was probably in his mind when he created this press, to help gather and stop making the hands of people bleed doing stuff like this. It's just amazing hearing this history, for real.
Improved efficiency and allowed for more tobacco to be processed in a shorter amount of time. Well, there was another product that took the market by storm, and that was the wonderful hair grower. Ever heard of the first black woman millionaire in the United States?
Yeah.
Madam C.J. Walker made a fortune selling her very own...
No relation, but I wish she was, because I would have loved to have had her as my auntie. The only thing is I know a lot of us who go natural now, because even though I've pressed my hair to cut it and make sure that it's growing healthily, it's going to go back to its natural coils. And I know a lot of people blame her for the relaxer and stuff. But you have to realize we were in a society that demonized our hair, that told us that our unkempt and nappy wasn't the way to go. And even it passed down generational. My mom used to hot comb and then relax our hair, making sure that it was lied, fried, and to the side for every event. And that takes a toll on our follicles. It coils for a reason, and we need more protective measures. So this isn't to knock Madam CJ, because at the time, making our hair respectable was the only way we could get jobs and pass in polite society. So I give her props. She was one of our first millionaires. She was Oprah before Oprah was a thing.
Hair grower formula.
Okay, I get it. I'm on a prank show. Fresh produce
like
can't be this low priced.
On.
Where's the camera? Where is the camera? Found it. Nope, that's an avocado.
Produce delivered fresh daily at everyday low prices.
Oh, they're gonna double add me. What's that? Okay, no, I can skip that. All right, back to it.
Back, and so did my confidence.
Let's talk about hair. They put us down, tell us we're ugly, make us feel ugly. Wonderful hair leads to wonderful opportunities. Mama,
you sure on to something. One thing I learned about dreams.
I love that
They
actress
come true
too.
for them. It's my duty to make money and use it for the benefit of my neighbors.
She was born in 1867 into slavery.
I'm telling you, before they even get to Miss Walker's great history, that is a dream for a lot of us. I know people think, oh, you just want to make your money for you and yours. Partially, because I do have a kid that I want to make sure that after I'm gone, he's taken care of. But I really dream of building a community one day. A tech-friendly community that grows and works together. That is the true dream. And right now, my current dream is to grow produce, take care of people that way, be able to help out friends and family that way. But the real goal of any of my work is to make enough where I can settle down, build up a town, and make it where people feel safe, feel protected, and feel connected. I think that is a good goal to set, and I'm hoping that I can keep myself together to do it.
Became an orphan at 7 years old, a mother at 17, and a widow by 20. After suffering from a scalp disorder that caused substantial hair loss, she devised a treatment that revamped the black hair care industry.
She was going after African American women. And because they were urban, they were beginning to care more about their clothing and about their presentation. She knew that this market was untapped.
She began selling her custom pomade in 1905 with just $1.05 in her pocket, and it turned into a lucrative business. It was called the Walker system, which involved preparing the scalp with iron combs and lotions. Here's another invention that also became popular in the hair industry: the dual adjustable mirrors. Samuel Scroton was another black inventor from the late 1800s. He changed many jobs before becoming a barber, but as soon as he started cutting hair, he realized something was missing.
Men are no more without vanity than women. As members of a civilized society, we are
the
concerned
barbershop
with
is
our
still the
appearance
place to
before
hang out,
others.
y'all.
He invented the dual adjustable mirrors on a standing pole for barbershops. He received a patent in 1868. The purpose behind his creation was to provide barbers with a practical tool that allowed customers to view their haircuts from multiple angles with ease. The mirror was useful for both the barber and the customer.
Nice.
Scotron invented and patented many other products and spent 15 years selling them. Another one of his inventions is the cornice. The adjustable window cornice, patented in 1883, was an innovation that allowed for greater control and versatility in window treatments. Unlike traditional fixed cornices, Scotron's adjustable product offered a solution for more precise.
And not to sound fancy, but my grandparents actually had that system for a while. I remember as a kid, I was told, don't yank on the curtains. And then we changed over, I believe it was in the 80s, where the house got a redesign. But for the longest time, I remember those fancy curtains. They were pretty. I remember them being green and stuff too. They had a weird smell to them after a while, but they were still pretty because she had a little lace thing along them too. My grandmother went all out with her curtains and keeping her living room preserved. I have so many good memories of that.
And customizable window treatments, allowing users to modify the cornice to suit their specific window dimensions and decorative preferences. This innovation became popular for its ability to accommodate various window sizes and styles. Another small but significant invention was the curtain rod. Scotron made significant improvements to curtain rods. His invention, patented in 1892, specifically focused on metallic rods designed to be fixed across the lower portions of windows. The importance of Samuel's invention lies in its practicality and efficiency. These curtain rods are unique as they are constructed using two telescoping tubes, allowing for adjustment to fit windows of different sizes. The significant aspect of Samuel's invention lies in the secure attachment mechanism for these rods to the window frame, ensuring they can be easily installed and removed, while also remaining firmly in place. But the curtain rod wouldn't have the same effects if it weren't for the curtain pull tip. Scotron patented the pull tip in 1886. It acted as a protective covering for the end of the curtain rod. It prevented potential damage to the wall or surrounding objects when moving or adjusting the curtains. These tips were often designed with decorative elements. By covering the sharp and rough ends of the curtain pole, these tips helped prevent the curtains from snagging or catching on the rod. In other words, this invention combined functionality and aesthetics. But there was more where that came from. In 1893, Scotron received another patent for the supporting bracket. This remarkable black inventor created an improved supporting bracket that could be adjusted vertically without using nails or screws, which often weaken and damage the support. Instead, this bracket used the weight of a shelf or any item placed on it to create enough friction to hold the bracket firmly in place without causing damage to the supporting bar. The invention was straightforward and easy to use. Other inventions proved to be critical in more peculiar industries, like the invention of whaling harpoon. Lewis Temple was a black inventor who invented the standard harpoon of the whaling industry in the mid-19th century. Temple was not a whaler. He was a reputable blacksmith. During this time, whaling was a huge industry around the globe.
It was, and I know some people are against it, and trust me and believe me, I don't like the idea of hunting whales either. But to know that this man who never whaled in his life, but was a blacksmith, which is something that people are trying to bring back, forged in fire, anybody? And he made this to make whaling more efficient. Even though I don't like killing ocean creatures like that, and because of my allergies, I don't eat or consume ocean creatures at all. I just feel like I have to give the man props for doing something to make it safer, because old school whaling was very dangerous.
Whales were used for their oil, which was used to lubricate machines and light the city. But their meat was also popular for frying.
1700 to 1850, the fuel that lit the houses, governments, and businesses of America and much of Europe was whale oil.
crews of whalers would catch the mighty sea creatures, and then either beside the boat or back near shore, they would slice strips of blubber off of the back and the head of the whales in a process called flensing.
Many black people worked as seamen for the whaling industry, and when Temple talked with whalers, he realized he could make tools that could boost their business. Temple realized that the harpoons people were using back then couldn't hold a struggling whale in place, which is why many whales escaped. So, in 1848, he came up with the whaling harpoon that prevented the whales from slipping loose. Here is another revolutionary invention, the ship sails handle. James Fortin, born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, from 1766 to 1842, served in the U.S. Navy during the Revolutionary War. When the British captured him, they offered him freedom, but only under one condition: agree to live in England. Fortin declined and said he would never betray his own people.
He made that decision because he really believed in the cause of the revolution.
Not only that, but England likes to forget that the roots of the transatlantic slave was them, Spain, and those who found it lucrative to gather up our people from our continent and send them over. And you're not just going to use this man's brilliant mind and fighting skills to turn against a country that he's only known. And sure, it is backwards logic to some that an enslaved person would say no to alleged freedom. But you got to realize that this young man wasn't that far removed from the culture to understand who placed him in chains in the first freaking place. So, yeah, not a good look, England. Not a good look, sorry.
He said that since he had been captured as a revolutionary, he felt that he still should stay with the cause that he was willing to lay down his life for and fight for.
When the war ended, Fortin pursued a different career. He became a sailmaker and invented a contraption to handle ship sails. He received a patent and became a rich man. This successful businessman used his finances to advocate for the abolition of slavery and fight for women's rights.
Yes.
After his service in the Revolutionary War, he goes on and tries to bring more strength to the abolition.
You do realize that to be a black philanthropist, even back then, was already dangerous for him. But instead of cowering and using the money to just protect him, he fought for equal rights. He fought for women's rights. He fought for abolition. And that's what I mean about taking your power and using it to empower others and protect others' rights, instead of just being selfish. This is why it's so important, these history lessons.
And becomes involved in the American Anti-Slavery Society. He's involved in promoting the education of African Americans here in Philadelphia and promoting their freedom.
Yo, I'm loving this outfit from
We'll
Stitch
probably get
Fix.
through a couple of more before I have to wrap up.
Next
But
on our
I'm
list
excited.
is the hand mill for grinding corn. George Peake was another black man who fought in the Revolutionary War. He created an improved manual corn
Vets
grinder.
do
Compared to the
amazing
older
things.
methods, Peake's invention was a lot more practical. It was simpler to work with.
Though I do like my mortar and pestle, sorry. I'm a witch. Can't help it. It is easy to have a mechanical or motorized grinder. I see the little crank there, so that's pretty neat. Especially when you're doing industrialized grinding.
And produced smoother corn. Even though he didn't receive a patent for his invention, a newspaper recognized Peake for his efforts. As you can see, there were many brilliant minds in the United States, but very few managed to revolutionize railroad safety, like Andrew Jackson Beard did. After all, he was the one who invented the Jenny coupler. In 1897, Beard obtained a patent for enhancing railroad car couplers. His invention was called the Jenny coupler. This device was designed to improve the knuckle coupler, which was patented in 1873 by Eli Janney. The knuckle coupler was dangerous when it came to connecting railroad cars. While it did its job, people had to manually place a pin between the two cars.
Early railroads relied on the link and pin couplers, such as these.
So many people got hurt working on the railroads. I am shocked when I studied the history of railroad workers who died laying tracks, railroad workers who died moving trains, and now knowing that people were probably losing limbs, if not worse, just trying to couple. Yeah, that's weird, man.
Railroad workers manually connecting the pieces at considerable risk to their safety.
So, a lot of people lost a limb or ended up with severe injuries. When Beard worked as a railroad worker, he too suffered a car coupling accident, which cost him his leg. Beard got not one, but 3 patents for his innovations for automatic car couplers. For his Jenny coupler, Beard got $50,000 for the patent rights. That's the equivalent of about $1.5 billion today. This black inventor became a part of the National Inventors Hall of Fame.
Awesome.
This black inventor also came up with the rotary engine. Beard invented a steam-driven rotary engine, which played a key role in revolutionizing production and manufacturing processes. These engines provided a more efficient power source compared to earlier technologies and allowed for the smooth operation of machinery, thus increasing productivity. Another worthy invention is the mechanical corn seed planter. In the 1800s, corn and cotton was in high demand, but planting was a manual and labor-intensive process. Farmers often used rudimentary methods to sow corn seeds. These seeds were often sown by hand. Farmers used a plow to create furrows in the soil. Then, people walked along the field and dropped the seeds into the soil. In 1834, Henry Blair proved to be a brilliant inventor by designing the mechanical corn seed planter. His patented invention looks like a wheelbarrow with a chamber attached to the bottom of the device to disperse the seeds. After dropping the seeds in the soil, rigs fixed to the wheelbarrow can be used to cover the seeds with soil. This invention was designed to be used for seeding, plowing, and soil coverage, all in one. Thanks to his marvelous invention, Blair helped boost crop planting efficiency and provided higher yields for farmers. Another invention from an intelligent black man was the Jessup wagon. George Washington Carver was a remarkable inventor and agricultural scientist. He was born a slave in 1864, before slavery was outlawed. When he was older, he achieved significant success both in the lab and among local people. He educated impoverished farmers by showing them alternative ways to feed hogs using acorns instead of expensive feed, and how to improve farmlands by using swamp muck rather than costly fertilizers. Through studying soil chemistry, Carver realized that continuously growing cotton had taken away vital nutrients from the soil, causing poor harvests.
When Carver arrived in the South, there were roughly 5 million black farmers there. Only about 1/5 of them owned any land. Almost all of them shared a common problem: over-reliance on cotton as the region's main cash crop, together with the sharecropper system used to produce it, which depleted the soil and kept tenant farmers in a permanent state of impoverishment.
One of his most notable contributions is the Jessup agricultural wagon. This mobile classroom was a horse-drawn carriage. It was basically Carver's school on wheels.
Yes, he was. And welcome to the chat, Grandpa Blues. It's good to see you.
Sewer backflow.
It's just amazing seeing this history for real.
Was an educator and civil rights activist. He invented the sewer backflow preventer.
And give me just a moment. Welcome to the chat, Grandpa Blues. I just love that I get to share this. I know for some Black History Month is limited. It is good to see you too. There are so many people that only get to hear tidbits. Like, I learned about Ernest Everett Just. I don't know if he'll make it on this list. I'm hoping he is, because Kiddo wanted to do a Black History report on a marine biologist. There's so much history out there that's just out there for us to learn. And that's what I love about the internet, because we can share this knowledge. And it is not, once again, to tell people, from my lips to your ears, it's not to shame people. It's to understand the contributing society that we all try to be a part of. After being dehumanized, people that should have rightfully felt resentful decided, no, we want to be a part of this society. We want to help the society continue to grow and flourish. And even when they couldn't get credit for their work when it was first patented or released, they kept striving for better for all of us. That's the goals. And exactly, I really do feel like we need to connect. We really do. It's important. Now I'm going to let this one go, just go a little bit over, because I want to get to at least partway point. I am going to try to continue this on Tuesday though, because Black History Month is all throughout February. So I'll either continue this on Tuesday unless something really deep political goes on. I've seen all that stuff about President Biden and the GOP trying to enact the 25th Amendment. Y'all can F right off, but I want to keep this more polite and keep this focused on the Black History lesson.
And patented it in 1890. Wow. This is a device that prevents sewage from flowing back into a home without impeding the usual flow of sewage. This invention helped maintain the functionality of a sewer system,
I
but it
know a
also
lot of us
increased public
benefited from
safety
that.
by keeping the unwanted water out and reducing the risk of potential health hazards.
Yep.
Another more practical invention was the paper rewinding device. Shelby Davidson was an
And we're
African
going
American.
to pause on the paper rewinding device and come back to that on Tuesday. I want to thank you all for stopping by. And maybe I didn't go over. I thought he was going to do more of a backstory on the young man. Not young man. He's probably passed. Oh my gosh. But back then he was a young man when he developed that sewer drainage system that helped change a lot of lives. Like, I grew up in New York City. There was no shortage of sewer contaminations from time to time. And even here, when we lived more in the city in Michigan, there were times where we had to boil our water, test our water, because sometimes backups happen. I can only imagine how much worse it would have been without that system. And this is just to say to y'all that during Black History Month, we just want to highlight the contributions to society. We're not trying to say that Black people are better than people, even though there probably are some that say that. We're trying to say that every human has the potential to help further our society. And the more connected we become, the better we all end up. So let's stop holding on to the grips of hate, because it gets us nowhere and it holds us back. But I want to thank everybody. Exactly, Grandpa Blues. It really is about contributions. It's about bettering people. It's about championing for rights. That philanthropist who served in a war, made his money, could have had his bag and been like, you know what, I got mine, I'm going to secure mine. Instead, he fought for abolition. He fought for women's rights. Because I've noticed, especially in marginalized groups, whether it's Black, Brown, BIPOC, whether it's LGBTQ, when we lift people up, it is for everybody. And I want more people to join us. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Go make Axiom Wolf and I some dinner. This will be uploaded onto YouTube. It should be available for replay for the week for those of you that came in a bit late. I want to thank everybody that stopped by. Loto, Beans, Brandomir, Grandpa Blues, so many of you who lurk, so many of you who share this on social media, so many of you who watch it on YouTube. I appreciate you all. And once again, these stickers are available now along with the mugs. I will be doing giveaways soon, especially on YouTube, because a lot of these are from my Calling Out the Heifer series, especially the You Are Full of Carbs and Lies. I know the heifer's going to be pissed that I've got this in merch now. But I just really want to thank you, because without you, I wouldn't have been able to do this. And I appreciate you letting my voice into your phones, devices, or TV screens each week, twice a week, maybe 3 times soon on YouTube. But for now, I'm going to wrap it up. Go take care of food for Axiom Wolf and I really do hope you have a good night.